It's the Genesee County Compassion Club show in the house. Back at allpointstv.com. Got John in the studio with us, and of course, special guest today, Eric Gunnels. What's up, everybody? Woo! And you hear the fireworks? Boom!
I wish I'd have had I forgot about trying to find an audio for that.
I don't even have my freaking headphones on.
Oh, I don't have mine on either. Do I need my headphones on?
Oh, you got a pair there?
Can you hear John?
Yeah, that's right. All right, you can
There's
hear
one
me.
hanging over there on the end.
I totally forgot about it.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, I didn't think about it, but yeah, I said I should have pulled up a fireworks, so display sound,
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, I forgot about it.
There's not one hanging
I
there?
don't see one. No.
All right.
I'll go without it. We'll roll. Go freestyle.
Pretty good. Ugh. Holy cow, we got this turned up. Okay, there we go.
Right
There you go.
All right, how's everybody doing today? It is a gorgeous day. Man, November 7th, right?
Yes.
See, the 7th?
Yes.
Actually, it's dreary out and depressing, but the good news, it's
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's actually rainy and cold. Beginning of November here in Michigan, but it is a glorious day, obviously.
It is.
We have the election results, which we're going to be talking about on today's podcast. Obviously, the big news here is marijuana is legal for recreational purposes. That's huge. All right, but we're going to talk about some other stuff as well.
Right on.
Get you guys up to speed. We want to first of all get to our events at the Compassion Club. And just give you guys a reminder what we got going on. We've got our glass blowing class down at the G3C, and that is Sunday, November 11th.
Nice.
So coming up this Sunday, I don't know if there's much room left to sign up. So if you want to participate, you need to do it quickly, sign up quickly. They have a limited amount of seats available for that class. The cost is $50, and you will get to play with fire and melt stuff. And Aaron Park from the Glass Park is coming up. Good friend of ours, been at a lot of our events and so on. He does awesome glass. He's known for the Legos pieces. They're the glass pieces that look like Legos.
Oh.
Really cool stuff.
They even fit together like pretty well close.
They actually,
they
except
fit
there's no divots on the bottom of it.
Right,
You
but
know,
otherwise,
just on the top.
Otherwise it looks pretty good.
They're sweet, very cool looking pieces. So it's not just for cannabis purposes, it is also for whatever purposes. And I know that they make glass items for all kinds of stuff nowadays, jewelry, pendants, toys, whatever. But yeah, Aaron Park's coming up. He's going to be making it happen. That's Sunday, November 11th at the club from 12 to 5 p.m. And again, cost is $50. Please sign up if you're going to attend, and you can do so at the G3C. All right. And I think they're going to be using one of the other buildings there. So they're going to have lots of space, lots of room for creativity and activities. It'll be a good time.
Nice. Nice.
So you have to be a member for that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep. Yeah, I did. I mean, we haven't had anybody who's not a member ask.
See, I would like to see that myself, be a part of that, because I'm not a member, but I think
I might know somebody who can hook you up.
Okay, that's but yeah, I could probably. But I just thought that some people out there might hear that, want to say, "Wow, the next time they have an event, they want to be part of it," and because this is going out to the public, So
yeah. No, actually, it's not just an exclusive medical thing. So I'm sure if we had other people that want to participate, we'd be willing to let you join. We're just kind of joking around here, but all we're doing is making glass. All right, and not crack pipes.
Right.
Okay. Even though you can get those for free. All right. Anyways, we got our glass blowing class. Please make sure you check that out if you're interested. Also coming up here, obviously, is our soup kitchen. That's the third, I believe, Tuesday of the month. And that'll be coming up here. And of course, with the holidays around, I know that we get a lot of folks that want to help out, and we really appreciate that. So this is a great opportunity for you to do so. And the soup kitchen is very busy. Obviously, we're getting into the cold season, so more and more people come in. I think the last time we served was like 120 people showed up, so definitely being well received. Matt, want to definitely say thank you for that. Good job. And all of you volunteers, thank you very much for showing up, making it happen, representing the club, representing marijuana, medical marijuana, and you do a great job. All right, thank you. Awesome. So, all right, let's talk about some news. Obviously, we've got election results. We want to talk about Michigan, of course, but before we dive into Michigan, let's hit some of the other areas around the country and get you guys up to speed with the rest of the country. All right, so Michigan was not the only place that was voting on marijuana. We had North Dakota, Missouri, and Utah also all voting on marijuana measures. And in North Dakota, they were looking to legalize. It did get shot down. So apparently North Dakota is not as cool as the rest of us. They're just plain out cold. I heard it's very cold in North Dakota. So, anyways, yeah, North Dakota. But Utah, Missouri, and Michigan all said yes.
Utah passed it.
Utah did.
That surprises me.
It is.
That's because of the core, like very conservative.
Indeed.
Out there. Yeah, very conservative.
But the obviously the tide is strong, and the folks at the LSD.
Is that the Tide stick? Or
LDS.
LDS. My bad.
Yeah, because they don't even drink coffee. The Mormons don't even drink coffee or tea. They only can use it for medicinal purpose. So, that's a huge portion of their population is the Mormons. That church is huge.
Let's see here, Utah, marijuana. I've always wanted to go to Utah. It looks awesome. They got the Moab there. They got killer ski places. And everybody always talks about the Mormons. You know what I mean? Like they're contaminated corn or something.
Go to
the Mormons.
Dude, I don't agree with their theology, but all the Mormons I met were just like too good to be true people. That's honest to God. I never had a bad one in my life that I met. I had a teacher in high school that was a Mormon. Everybody knew he was. He was one of the most favorite teachers in that school. So he was a really decent, he was a funny guy, just a decent guy.
Yeah, not to say that, people of any one particular religion makes him a bad person. That's not right.
I just make sure everybody know that we're not trying to pick on them but they are very, very clean cut. That's
conservative group. Yeah. No, and I think you're making a point, John. The base in Utah is typically represented as I think it's typically a red state. Isn't that Orrin Hatch?
Yeah, Orrin Hatch.
Who's been in office for like 65 years. Seriously, Utah, pull your heads out of your rectum and vote for somebody else next time. But as far as for marijuana, you guys got it right. So congratulations, good job. And also another state was, and that was a medical measure, by the way. So other states, Missouri passed, I believe that was recreational in Missouri. I'll pull this up for you guys. Or Missouri, if you're from there. Were you aware of the Missouri pronunciation?
Missouri.
If you're from Missouri, that's how you say it. No, that was a medical marijuana as well, and that also passed. So, good stuff there. I think that a lot of folks were looking at this particular midterm election cycle as a sort of barometer to whether or not cannabis was still gaining momentum or if it was sort of losing steam, and it definitely has not lost steam. 3 out of the 4 states voted yes. Michigan overwhelmingly voted yes at 55.8%. So yeah, it has not lost momentum. It is continuing to gain steam, if you will.
Yep.
And I think that we're going to see in 2 years more states jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
With expansions in their medical marijuana fields and availabilities and basically the market.
Sure.
And then also on the recreational side of things as well. So you see in Michigan here, 10 years ago, to this day almost, we were sitting here celebrating medical marijuana passing.
Right.
And now here we are 10 years later with recreational. And I did talk to some people, they said, well, surprised it took this long. And I know there's other folks out there that say, I can't believe it happened in my lifetime. So a lot of different perspectives.
That's true.
And if you look at California, I'll point them out. They passed their medical marijuana in 1996. And just last year, 2017, they passed recreational. So we were a little bit quicker to come around, once we had medical in our state. And I think that's a testament to the fact that cannabis is still gaining momentum. More and more people are latching onto this, realizing it isn't dangerous.
Sure.
It's not the devil's weed like they've been told. And a lot of the things that have been associated with cannabis, folks now are realizing it's untrue. It's stereotype, it's stigmata, it's baloney. And they've talked to enough people, they've had experiences. Folks around them are using this stuff now, and they're finding out that it didn't make them crazy, it didn't make them racist, or whatever. And so, yeah, I think cannabis should have never been illegal in the first place. And a lot of the lies that have been spread about it for 70 years are finally now being found out.
Right, being undone, and right, yeah, exactly what you're saying is exposing the truth. And and people are sick of the lies, and I think people are ready to change. I think yesterday's election was a certain testament to that.
By the way, yesterday I was talking to a friend of mine. He had gone to his doctor to see, because he had some kind of soreness and stuff, and his doctor, he's talking about type of medications. He said, well, depending on how the vote goes this time, tonight, how it comes out. He said, if that happens and they pass it, he said, I recommend, using cannabis or whatever, some kind of derivative to deal with the pain instead of these painkillers. Now, and that right there is a telling statement from a medical professional who's been around for 30 some years in practice. And he's like, he was actually saying now he felt safer. He felt able to actually discuss this where he probably hadn't been before. Felt that comfortable.
That's
Just a couple
point,
weeks.
John.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that something I didn't really think about actually. You're right. That is absolutely true. Hopefully, there will be more professionals now feeling more comfortable that it's legal for everyone to make a medicinal recommendation.
Well, and also people in the professional field also can now be a little bit more outspoken and feel comfortable about their position on this subject, when in fact it is legal. And they will not suffer any legal ramifications from it, or blowback onto their job security. I've seen doctors that testified at medical marijuana cases in this state that did not want to fully disclose their belief in the medical efficacy of marijuana simply because they didn't want the hospital that they worked for to fire them. And they literally, stated that in court, like, Judge, I don't want to talk about this. I'm under contract by a certain hospital, and this is not part of my. I'm breaking that, that contract.
Right.
So this is has been a big issue. I know that people certainly that have used cannabis for years didn't want people to know simply because of the social ramifications or possibly the legal ramifications, whether they had a child custody battle going on or other issues that certainly this has had an effect on. And this has in the past been used as a leverage with parents and so forth in a breakup. Using as a leverage tool to get the other parent in trouble with the law. Therefore, they look like the better parent, and that those kind of things will go away in time, I think, and they'll get ironed out.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a big point. There is we have seen in the last 10 years. People who are using cannabis for medicinal purposes have their parental status jeopardized, and the children taken from the home. In a completely unacceptable. Should have never been done. But now, hopefully, with having this be a part of our culture, that would be looked on as being unacceptable by everyone, and not just those of us that are in the medical marijuana field.
Right, and I would hope that it becomes as common as like alcohol in the respect or the regard of there's no crime if the adult is not drinking or being belligerent or committing other crimes. Then there is no crime being committed, and just because you have beer in your refrigerator at home does not make you a criminal.
Right.
Just because, likewise, if now you have cannabis, in your stash box at home, you're no longer a criminal.
That's right.
So this is a big step forward, I think, socially. It was also a big win in the state, I believe, for the governor's race. I think that we can all have a huge sense of relief on our right now. My personal feelings, especially regarding the Attorney General's race. Gretchen Whitmer was certainly a better choice over Bill Schuette. I think Bill Schuette was a threat to justice and freedom all across the state. He certainly did not impress me or prove to anything of my standards that he did anything good in office while he was there, and he only did harm while he was there, in my opinion. So good riddance to Bill Schuette. So
amen to that.
Yeah. So yeah.
I was just one of the things, obviously all of the different things that he was the sort of head of, in the last 8 years.
Right.
And his implications on the medical marijuana industry were far and wide.
They were.
And really detrimental to the nature and why that law was passed.
Right.
And contrary to what the voters were asking for. And so I kind of feel like, this is really egg on his face, as he was one of the main opponents to medical marijuana. back before the law was passed back in 2007,
Right.
And all the way on through its administration was nothing but a thorn in the side of patients who were just trying to have access.
Yeah.
I think there was definitely blowback from our community.
More than a thorn, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got,
I think there were other issues, beyond that stemmed out, that kind of show the type of person he was. For example, the Flint water crisis.
Yeah.
Not having the ability or the want to go really after the people that needed to be gone after.
Right.
And then on top of that, one of the things that burns me is being a person who cares about the fiscal responsibility of government, and seeing that his office had requested an additional $3 to $4 million to do its job and go after these people who they were supposed to go after for the Flint water crisis.
In a poor performance that job was.
Absolutely. So, I think that we need to have checks and balances in government, and this voting that we had, is one of them. It's our ability to say no.
Right.
And we did that. So I think that's awesome.
It is. Oh, and let's not forget the significant win of Attorney General Dana Nessel.
Yeah.
My goodness, that was a huge win, and we didn't really even know for sure on that until early this morning. I mean, early in the voting game, she was behind. She was trailing 45 to 49 early on in the election polls. We weren't sure, and then, by the way, Detroit, I'm not sure if there was more than one precinct. It might have been more than one precinct that was court-ordered to stay open.
Okay.
Till 10 o'clock.
Oh, for voting.
For voting.
Okay.
Because of failure to have electrical outlets for the electronic voting system.
Yes, I did hear about that.
So that could have also, a delay in the Detroit area voting could have also been a reason why the Dana Nessel results were yes, exactly, because we were getting a lot of lack of election results from those major precincts. Probably had a lot of population.
Right. Well, let's get into some of the election results. We have Attorney General Dana Nessel now being our elect official there. She won by 48.7% of the vote.
Go Dana.
To Tom Leonard's 46.5%. So definitely a hotly contested race. There was a difference of about 90,000 votes. So that's not a lot in the state of Michigan. So she is our elect. That's awesome.
I would definitely attribute that to the medical marijuana community and the fact that Dana proudly stated that she recognized and respected the laws of Michigan medical marijuana law and the recent ballot initiative. So she knows that she's had great response this whole time, great feedback from her.
Well, listening
very proud of her
to her responses and to her candor, and then listening to someone like Bill Schuette, who when he was asked questions about marijuana being legalized if he were to become governor, and he spends 90% of the conversation talking about the opioid epidemic and crisis, which is really actually contrary to what he was even asked about, being the fact that people are using cannabis to get off of opioids, and he didn't even acknowledge that. So the brickheadedness is gone, thank goodness. Let's go to the governor results. We have obviously Gretchen Whitmer, a governor-elect, 2.2 million votes. 53.1% of the vote compared to Bill Schuette's 1.8 million and 44%. And point to be here, I guess, is I know that we had record turnout for voting. And I don't know if that was just in Michigan or if that was more like a nation thing.
I didn't hear the things on that. But I was here. Some turnouts in certain precincts were like extraordinarily high comparison to other elections.
And if this here is totaling. This is from let's see here, the New York Times, which has 4.165 million votes cast for governor, 98% reporting. So it's pretty much the majority of all out there reporting. But that is still less than half of the voting population here in Michigan. So we have a long ways to go yet in getting people educated and getting them to participate. And hopefully the other two measures that passed yesterday will do something to encourage folks to get out and vote. I know certainly Proposal 3 will make it easier for folks to vote, and hopefully we'll get more people participating in voting. Back to the gubernatorial race there. Gretchen Whitmer elected. Bill Gelano, I think that's how you say his name, from the Libertarian Party, 56,000 votes, only 1.3%. and the other candidates made up 1.5% collectively. So definitely still red and blue battles going on here, and not really much room for a third party, which is disappointing, to say the least. Let's move on here. So we talked about the Attorney General. That's good news. The other big race that was going on here in the state was for our state. Was it state? I can't remember the position now. The one that Stabenow won, damn it. State senator. And it just narrowly beating out John James. I can find the numbers for this. I will share them with you. Oh, poop. All right, well, anyways, Stabenow has been in government for like 30 plus years, and here she goes for another 4. 2.1 million votes, 52%. John James had 1.9 million votes at 46%. So
he did really well in comparison to a challenger for an incumbent that's so deeply rooted as Debbie.
Debbie Stabenow is very deeply rooted in Michigan. She's very strongly supported.
Well, maybe the maybe Prop 2 in the redistricting.
But she's a U.S. Senate, and that was for Michigan.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. So good point, and that's something we'll probably talk about. But strong foothold. She definitely has that. She's been, like I said, she's been in politics for 34, 35 years, coming right up through our own legislature and into the feds at the U.S. Senate level. So at any rate, she'll be there for, I think senators serve, they serve 6 years, John?
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah.
6 years. So there you go. Let's get into some of our more local races. All right. Let me pull these up here.
There's no term limits on a state senator, is there?
Yeah, there's no term limits at the federal level. There probably should be.
Except for president, that's it.
Yeah, except for president.
Right.
Thank you, John.
Right.
But as far as U.S. House Representatives and U.S. Senators, there are no term limits. So we have people like Orrin Hatch from Utah who have been serving for literally 35 freaking years. And actually, if you go on Google, you can just simply type in list of U.S. Senators who have served over 35 years, and there's a whole freaking list of them. So... And then we also have people like Debbie Stabenow, who she has served in her position for a smaller number of times. I think like 6 years previous term.
I think she's been in almost like 20-some years because she beat out Spence Abraham. Spence Abraham, I think, served one term.
Well, she has jumped seat. So she's been in the Senate, she's been in the House, and before she was in the House, she was here in our Senate, Michigan Senate, and in our Michigan House as well.
Right, so she's a career politician.
She is a career politician, absolutely. I guess what I'm pointing out here is that guys like Orrin Hatch have been in their U.S. Senate seat for 35 years.
Dingo's got that beat out easy, though.
Yeah, you're right. There's others out there. I'm picking on him because he's our guy of the day. But seriously, there's a whole list of them out there that have been serving in their seat for over 35 years. They are not. Most of them are not from Michigan.
John Dingo's father served in the time during FDR's administration. Then he served for several years, and now his wife's got the position.
Yeah.
So I mean, you're talking 70-some, 80-some years almost
of the same family.
Same family running things.
Yeah. Is that ignorance or idiocracy or insanity? I don't know, but probably one of the three. Anyways, I digress. Let's move on. Let's get into the Michigan results, the more local results, like I was saying. Let's go to Genesee County. We had quite a few different council members being elected. Montrose was picking out a mayor. Colleen Brown won. Mount Morris City Council had 3 positions of 4-year terms. Mac Irwin, Jeff Roth, and Josh Thayer, all in Mount Morris City Council. Swartz Creek City Council District 4 had 1 4-year term available, and that went to Gentry Farmer.
I met him, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah, I met him because I'm covering now. Now I'm videotaping the Swartz Creek City Council meetings. So
that's right. That's right. So those will be available here on All Points TV, I'm assuming. Just so you guys know, when these local elections happen, your votes really count. All right. Gentry won his vote or his election at 391 votes and beat out his competition, Steve Shoemaker, at 373 votes. So we're talking less than 20 votes here made that call.
Right.
Goodrich Village Council had 3 seats available. These are the winners: Tim Baracco, Wendy Sierra Mitaro. I apologize if I didn't put the right spin on that. And Doug Mickabee. And again, very close race. Tim Baracco was the least amount at 435 votes. He is voted in, beating out the next closest competition at 425 votes.
That was Goodrich, you said?
Goodrich.
I know Doug McAbee. Actually, I worked with him years ago.
Yep, and I know Tim, but I can tell you that your votes count. Commissioner Genesee Township and Beecher Metropolitan District partial one-term seat, Danny Gibbs took that in. It looks like nobody was really running against him except for a write-in, and nobody wrote her in. I don't know what's up with that. Montrose City Council had 3 4-year terms available. Thomas Bigelow, Mark Richard, and they don't have the other third name listed, but those 2 people took the cake in Montrose. I have not heard yet if Montrose's medical marijuana ordinance passed. I know that they were voting on that yesterday. If anybody has info and you want to chime in, please feel free to do so. The number here is 810-250-7365. But I know that Montrose had put their medical marijuana ordinance to a vote. It was my understanding anyways, and I believe they voted on that yesterday. So want to check that out. Let's see. What happened in our district? Are you aware of who took the 48th district?
I'm actually not aware, no.
Okay.
No, I just know it wasn't me.
It was not. No, it was not.
Because I did not win.
No. And also we had, I'm kind of disappointed here with the reporting in the paper because we also had, well, I'll get to the county commissioners and stuff, but I'm looking for the judges that we voted for. Let's see, okay, Judge of Court of Appeals, 2nd District, 6-year term, Kathleen Jansen won that. Let's see, Court of the 7th Circuit, Celeste Bell. Judge of Circuit 7th Court, non-incumbent position, Elizabeth Kelly won that one. And Brian Piquel. So those are the 2 there. Just beating out Chris Christensen, who was about 10,000 votes behind. So definitely a solid race by Mr. Christensen. And it looks like Elizabeth Kelly and Piquel had almost the same number of votes, or within about 300 of each other. So pretty close race there. Let's see here. Mott Community College Board. We had Andy Everman, Michael Freeman, and Matthew Norwood. Montrose City Mayor already got in that. Okay. I'm not going to get into all the different school boards because I have no idea anything about them. And I guess that would be one of the things I would want to, personally, I want to learn more about. Like when we're voting for regents of MSU or U of M or Mott, in this case, not only do I not know who any of these people are and what their views are, but I have no idea how those positions would affect me as a taxpayer, citizen, whatever. So, and I know that's my own fault, but I think that probably the majority of us are in that boat. I mean, were you...
What's that?
Did you have any idea who the Mott people should be voting? You know what I mean? Like when we were voting yesterday on Mott's board.
No.
Right, exactly. So, you know, this is something...
Another plug, I've had Andrew Everman here a couple of times. So,
yeah.
So we have, you can see the videos on YouTube from our channel.
There you go.
But he's also, I'm glad he's in. He's a very committed individual. Probably one of the most willing to help out anybody, regardless, and just get things done. I'm glad he's in because
cool.
I think they overlooked him the last time. So
well, good to hear. We got good people in there. So, all right. Well, let's move on from the election results. Let's get into what we really want to celebrate today is obviously Michigan voting in recreational marijuana. And I know that obviously our segment is really based around medical marijuana, but I think there's a lot of positives to medical marijuana because recreational has now occurred. Obviously, we hope to see less police pressure on patients and caregivers in the community. Obviously, we already mentioned the professional, hoping that professionals will cling on to this more, if you will, and start to accept it more. And just the broad acceptance, I think, of across society that at least now patients and caregivers can take part in and not feel like there's some sort of a fringe element anymore.
Right.
Now they're just people who use this medicinally, and everybody's using it, so who cares, right? So,
did we already talk about Jeff Sessions?
Not yet.
Okay, we're saving that.
We'll get to him.
We'll get to him.
We'll get to him.
All right. By the way, Cheryl Kennedy.
Oh, man.
Cheryl Kennedy did win the 48th district.
House
of Reps.
Okay.
Yep.
I kind of thought she had that wrapped up just because that's very highly Democratic.
Yep.
Very group there. I think
yep.
was it Hardwick was the opponent.
Al Hardwick. Yep.
Yeah, and probably a good candidate there, but he's running in a blue area, so
that's
it's
true.
Kind of one of those things.
Yep.
All right, let's get on to legalization. What can you do? What can't you do? Let's talk about it. People over the age 21 years and older, so same age as alcohol. If you don't know or you don't know, this campaign was called the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol. So there you go. 21 years and older, you can now possess 2.5 ounces of pot on your person and up to 10 ounces in your home. This is per individual, per person. It doesn't say, as far as I can tell, it doesn't say like, okay, well, if there's 2 people in the home, then the home's limit is, no, it's per person. All right, so that's it, per person. All right, and if you're in one of these Mormon homes, that's a lot of weed.
It is. It is.
That's a lot of weed. All right. It does need to be locked up if it's in your home. You are not allowed to sell it. Okay? It does not authorize you to sell. You are allowed to have up to 12 plants in your home for personal use. And again, I don't have the details as far as, well, can I have 12 per person in my home?
I'm pretty sure that it is 12 per household.
12 per household.
Yes.
Okay.
Another thing I'd like to know.
That like you are limited to 12 per household. It's not, you can't have like 4 people in the house.
So if we got the Brady bunch, we can't have
no.
Can't have an acre of weed, right?
8.
I was going to ask you, how does this affect gun rights? Is it still? I mean, is it still probably impositioning on gun rights? Or?
There hasn't been an official answer on this yet, John. So I'll just give you mine. In that marijuana is still illegal federally.
Sure.
And gun rights are afforded to you by the federal Constitution. So there could be people in court that would argue, and I can guarantee you this: if you're in court after this, if you get busted, say today or actually 10 days from now, because the law takes effect in 10 days. That was a lot of questions.
Technically, yep.
So technically, in 10 days, it's on. Okay. If you are arrested after that 10-day period, and let's say it's for marijuana, and you're like, well, why would that happen? It's legal. Let's just say that it happens, all right, and you have a firearm on you, you're going to be facing a firearm charge.
Right.
That's all there is to it.
A 5-year felony firearm charge.
Potentially. Yeah. So, again, I'm not the legal expert. I'm certainly not your attorney general, and hopefully our attorney general, new attorney general, can shed some light on this.
Right.
Should you be able to? Absolutely.
Because you shouldn't be, because just like with alcohol, just because you're in possession of beer, whether it's in your cooler, whether it's on the kitchen table, and you have a firearm in the home, does not mean that you're committing a crime.
Right. Now, obviously, you're not authorized to use a firearm while you're under the influence of marijuana
or alcohol
or anything else.
Sure, exactly.
Right. No different rules there.
Right.
You're not allowed to consume cannabis in public. So just like alcohol, you can't walk down the street and drink a beer. Right. You can't walk down the street and smoke a joint.
Right.
It is for private use in your home or on private property.
Right.
Okay.
And I would assume that this extends to if you had a CPL and a right to carry, or if you were carrying outside your home, possession of a firearm, possession of like a marijuana, which is still federally illegal. Yeah, that's not a good thing to do.
Yeah, I don't know how police will take care of this. And again, with having a new attorney general, we're going to have to wait and see.
Right, it's up in the air still.
So yeah, if you get pulled over, let's say it's December 10th, a month from now, marijuana's legal, and you've got some weed in the trunk, and then right next to that is your weapon.
Sure.
How is that going to be handled by police? Well, they should let you go. As long as your weapon is being transported correctly, your cannabis is being transported correctly, you're not under the influence.
Right.
All things being that, they should just let you go.
Theoretically should.
Yeah. Could there be an issue? Yeah, there certainly could be. So I don't want to just tell somebody that, it's a free-for-all.
Right.
But they should let you go.
Right.
All right?
Yep.
So now again, if you're driving down the road and you're smoking one, you're under the influence, it's going to be a different scenario.
Right.
They pull you over and you've got a half-burned roach in your cup holder. It's going to be a different scenario.
Right.
So don't put yourself in that position.
It'll be a different scenario too if you're carrying the firearm versus if it's in the trunk of the car. The firearm's in the trunk of the car being transported.
If you're transporting your firearm incorrectly, that is irrelevant to the marijuana law. It's being transported incorrectly.
Right.
All right, other things about this. We've had a lot of questions as to, well, if I'm a caregiver or if I'm a patient and I've got the ability to grow 12 plants, can I now grow 12 more?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes. The answer is also will be tried in court. So, and again, one of these things that, just like, I guess a lot of folks are looking to have all the answers now.
Right.
And I just want to tell you that that's not the case.
Right.
That was not the case when we passed the medical marijuana law back in 2008. It's not going to be the case for this now. There's going to be people out there that are going to tell you one thing, and then somebody else is going to tell you the opposite. And no one really knows until it gets tried in court. So if Dana comes out and she says, here's the protocol, all right, this is what I want police to do. Doesn't even matter. What matters is individuals in front of a judge in an individual situation.
True.
And how will that play out and how those decisions get disseminated and broken down and then, actually applied to people's real lives. We're talking a process that's going to be just like now, 10 years 20 years in the making.
Right.
So should you go out, if you're a caregiver or patient, and start growing an additional 12? I would recommend no. Can you? Sure, go for it. You can do what you want, justify it. Hopefully you don't have any issues. Should they leave you alone? Absolutely, they should leave you alone.
Sure.
Will they? There's no guarantee.
Right.
All right. So, but yeah, you should have the ability. I would think if you're a medical marijuana patient, they've already told us that is a special exception made for people here in Michigan. That's what they told us years ago. And that's how they justified a lot of the things that they were trying to do to us as patients and caregivers by saying, well, you're not afforded certain protections because you're an exception to the rule.
Right. It's a right.
Well, if that's the case, I would also say that in this particular instance, now that cannabis is legal for everyone, I'm still an exception to the rule. So I can grow my 12 plants that everybody else can, and then take advantage of my exception. So that's what I would be fighting for in court if I had to go to court over this. But I can tell you that I personally am not going to go start trying to grow 12 more plants.
Right.
But that's up to you to decide. And there's going to will there be people that will do it? Absolutely. Absolutely. Can you have, as a caregiver or patient, you're already allowed to have 2.5 ounces per card, essentially. Can you now have an additional 10 ounces? Yes, you can.
Theoretically.
Right? Same thing. So, let's say you get rated December 10th, police comes in, and you're like, all right, here's my 10 ounces that I'm allowed to have, that everybody can have, and then here's my 2.5 ounces that I'm allowed to have for my patient card. You should be okay. And I guess that's getting back to how we started this conversation, in that hopefully this movement, this recreational thing that we've now passed, will help move the entire conversation forward, and so that our law enforcement, our authorities really have no interest in going after those issues. Who cares if you have 12 plants more?
Right.
That hopefully will be the attitude. And I know that it will be from quite a few of our law enforcement, as they are focused on more important items, like child trafficking and going after rapists and murderers, and obviously they're all concerned with the opioid epidemic.
Which I hope that this last election for the legalization of cannabis, I hope that sends a clear message to all law enforcement that that's what the public wants them to do. We want them to go focus on other real crime, real criminals with real victims. And
I can tell you,
there's no victim
for the most part.
There's no crime, no victim, no crime thing.
Yeah, and for the most part, the attitude of law enforcement here in our state is that they really don't care about cannabis.
Right.
They want to go after the big dealers. They want to go after the big cartels to keep those types of activities out of Michigan, obviously for good reason. And there's a few exceptions to the rule that they hated marijuana and they wanted to sink anybody who was attached to it. Those guys are out there, but now they're the fringe element because they can't even enforce what they like anymore.
Right.
And the majority of them out there, they're able to turn their head, and that's the nice thing, is that these guys, previously they might have said, well, I really don't care, but by law I have to do this. You don't have to do that anymore, and so hopefully that helps.
Right.
But yeah, can you possess these additional amounts now if you're a patient or a caregiver? I would say yes, you can. I would say by doing so, you're putting yourself out there to potentially be a test case. And I know that many of you are very brave and have no problem being that test case person. So it's up to you, all right? That's going to be your choice. But basic things, obviously you cannot smoke in public, no driving, no public consumption. It says here, there will be no commercial sales until businesses are licensed and approved. And with the new administration here in Michigan, we're going to have to see how the approval structure will evolve. I'm being told that the BMMR may actually dissolve, so I've yet to see if that happens. I'm being told that LARA may be the one, or will be the one, to take up arms as far as creating the new regulatory framework for cannabis here in Michigan, and then also issuing out applications and monitoring the compliance of these operations. So we'll have yet to see how this is. If those things conspire and they do happen, well, then obviously we're going to be looking at a different process here, and we're going to be looking at different people making the calls. So I guess, I mean, what I'm saying is the commercial sales is going to take time, and it will likely be built on the same platform that we're already seeing for the MMFLA. So it is likely that the recreational market will still be split into 5 different business categories, just like the MMFLA. We'll have to go through a very almost identical licensing process as far as being qualified, and also similar fees, taxes, and so on. In fact, you may see even increased amounts, being that they are for recreational licenses and not just for medicinal. We may see many places being duly licensed. And I guess, again,
I believe the MMFLA licensees have the ability, that the first 2 years of the program have the ability to apply for the RMLA license within the first 2 years of the RMLA.
Right.
And so they have a head start of everyone else. Anyone that's already previously licensed by the MMFLA board will have first crack at the recreational license. Yes.
There you go. So there's a comment in here from Jeff Hank, who was one of the attorneys that was really spearheaded this entire thing. And he even says, don't expect to see cannabis regularly available at recreational outlets until maybe 2020.
Right.
So this is going to definitely take time,
right,
to develop as an industry, and obviously the state's going to have to take time to develop it as well. And we saw this before. I mean, back 10 years ago, we were sitting here at the same spot, wondering what's going to happen, how's this going to look, and we didn't get any answers until April 1st. Until actually the state was forced to do something by their own deadline. So I don't think that LARA is going to be, all of a sudden clicking their heels and making everything snap. I would expect to see more of the same. So 2020 is probably an accurate estimate. Jeff Hank definitely knows what he's talking about. And so it's going to take some time.
Sure.
And again, I think that we need to be careful. Obviously, patients and caregivers, we're protected. We have our medical marijuana law, the original one in 2008. And I guess I would say don't get caught up in the recreational market, because we're not allowed to sell.
Right.
So what we don't want to see happening is people from the medicinal market trying to, all of a sudden be the new kingpin.
Sure.
and going out there, because you're going to make a bad name for all of us out here that are doing it legitimately.
Sure.
So let's keep that in mind. But I think that it's right here. Jeff Hank says it's not going to be an earth-shattering change. He's one of the leaders of the effort to get the legalization on the ballot. He says, simply the biggest change right now is that adults are no longer going to be arrested for simple possession.
Right. Exactly. So, that's what I'm happy about, for sure. I mean, that's the biggest. It's the biggest thing. I mean, I think that even for we've taken away criminal penalties. This takes away criminal penalties. There's no misdemeanors and felonies are off the charge. Now it'll be impossible. Maybe not impossible, but it will be unlikely that law enforcement will be able to get a warrant for your home based on nothing more than a civil.
Smell marijuana.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I mean, I've been asked a lot of these questions too. Well, what if a police officer just comes up my driveway and just says, "Hey, I smell marijuana." So what?
Yeah, that'd be like them driving up and saying, "I smell beer."
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, it's like,
Did you want one?
Did you want? Are you trying to hint? You want one? I mean, and that's we're going to have to. I tell people we're going to have to figure out a different way to actually communicate with law enforcement about this, because look, I mean, there's still some things.
I think there's going to be a dramatic change from law enforcement.
I hope so.
I think.
I really do. I really think that they're going to take a relaxed approach on this. I think right away.
Yeah.
And then until they get a direction from either an attorney general that wants to go after us, or people that use cannabis aggressively, which I doubt that's going to happen, because I doubt Dana Nessel, our attorney general currently, who was elected, is not going to do that. So I think that we're going to have a relaxed policy about this, which I think it should be. I really do. It really should be a relaxed policy.
Let's talk about some of the other aspects of the law. Michigan is still an at-will employer state, so that means your place of employment still has the ability to pick and choose whether or not they want a drug test and what their policies are. So could you be fired today for using cannabis? And the answer is yes, you still can be. So if you've got a job working for, like, let's say Myers, and they drug test, I don't know that they do, but let's say, just use them as an example because they're one of the people that opposed the law. But yeah, Myers, let's say you work there and they drug test you, they say marijuana is prohibited as part of our employee policy. Yes, they can fire you for that. So you want to make sure you're cognizant of your company or your employer's policies,
right?
And what their practices are, because if they send you for drug testing, you're still testing for cannabis at this point,
right?
So
now that doesn't mean that this is not subject to change in the future, because I absolutely have no doubt that in the future this will be challenged on one level or another, because it's like saying that your employer can all of a sudden just fire you because they find out that you drank beer at home or you drank alcohol last Friday night.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're suffering consequences at your job because of a social, legal morality, issue, questionable thing. That's, that will definitely come into play at some point in time in the future, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
So
next question we get a lot of is, okay, so if, for those of us that aren't patients and caregivers and already have dedicated grow spaces, for those of you out there that all of a sudden now want to grow plants, more power to you. But where can you do that? So here's what the rule is. Basically, plants cannot be visible from a public place without the use of binoculars, aircraft, or other optical aids, or outside of an enclosed area equipped with locks or other functioning security devices that restrict access to the area. So it still needs to be not visible from your neighbor's property, provided they're not up on a ladder or using a drone or something like this.
Elevated platform, elevated service.
And as far as it does need to still be enclosed and locked up as well.
Mm-hmm.
So very similar to the medical marijuana law in regards to outdoor grows.
Yep, which is good.
It's pretty much the same thing. So can you just go pop some marijuana plants in your garden next year in the spring? No. You need to put a privacy fence around there first with a lock on it. Okay, essentially.
Right.
So,
and just keep in mind, not visible from an adjacent property.
The nice thing that they do have in here is it says enclosed area equipped with locks. So it's not quite as descriptive as the medical marijuana part of enclosing your plants. And so hopefully we won't get into this whole worry about whether or not it needs to be covered or uncovered or so on and so forth. So, and again, we're talking about 12 plant gardens here, not 60 or 72 like you see with patients and caregivers.
Sure.
Another part of the law that we definitely want to talk about, and we kind of started to get into it, is that the current businesses that are getting licensed for the MMFLA Facilities Act, they kind of have a head start on everybody. They have 2-year sort of sunset clause, or if you will, 2-year deadline to get in and to get licensed to become a retailer or grower, tester, whatever it may be, for the recreational market. After the 2-year period is over, there's a spot already in the law for micro businesses. And these are supposedly going to be set up for direct sales to consumers. So in other words, you've got a small micro business that grows cannabis, and they would not have to follow the regular channels that the large commercial outlets would have to follow, but they would be able to transfer or sell directly to the public on a limited scale. So we're talking about somewhere between 100 to 150 plants. And it depends on how LARA sets up the regulatory framework for that as well. But I know obviously there's a lot of people out there in Michigan, patients, caregivers especially, that are interested in these micro business licenses.
John, we got a picture of one of them?
Yeah. All right. So I know you guys are probably chomping at the bit to hear more about these, to find out more about these. I don't have much more information at this point in time, but it is part that was built into the law. I think it's something that we're going to have to press the state for to ensure that they follow through. And realistically, they've already had a year head start. The commercial entities have. They're going to have 2 more years of that at the bare minimum. So they're going to have plenty of head start out there, even though most of you caregivers have had a 10-year head start. So I think there's something to be said for that as well. And I do believe that the state still has a responsibility to provide a legitimate avenue for patients and caregivers to follow. And not just the medical marijuana law itself, but if you really want to eliminate the caregiver model, you need to provide something to transition them into something that is going to be commercial, regulated, and within a legislative framework of some sort. So I think the micro business is an opportunity for the state to do that. I know it's definitely an opportunity for caregivers and patients as well. And I think it's something that's going to be needed. I mean, you can see in this state we have very large alcohol distributors that sell, certainly a lesser quality degree of product in mass. And then we also have a very avid, vivid microbrewery industry here in Michigan that's almost separate in a sense from the mass producers. And it really does present a large economy, and it provides a choice that people are looking for. You know what I mean? There's obviously a market for it, and I'm sure the two cross mingle as well. But I mean, it has certainly segmented itself into the alcoholic industry. The microbrewery business has here in Michigan, and it's become a part of our culture. And I hope that we can have the same thing happen with cannabis. Because I think there's room for both. There's room for the Rite Aids, and there's also room for the Atwater Brewing or the Founders Brewery or whatever it is, even though some of those places are getting a lot bigger now. So, it's not a bad thing.
Right.
So, all right. That's the medical marijuana, or I keep saying medical because I've been saying medical.
For so long.
Yeah, that's the recreational marijuana law.
Yeah.
All right. So 10 ounces, 2.5 on your person. So that means you can leave your house, walk around with 2.5 ounces of weed in your pocket if you're 21 years or older. You can grow up to 12 plants at your home and have up to 10 ounces at home.
And then I think
it's got to be locked up.
I think the 10 ounces does not have to be locked up.
There was something in here that said it had to be.
Well, there's a different segment on there that talks about you can have beyond the 10 ounces. I think under lock and key. I think there's I'll have to look at it carefully, but and I'm sure attorneys are going to pick this apart a little bit, and
sure,
we'll have interpretations and other things like that going on. But I think there's room in there for I think this was a well done law for what we had. I mean, look, could we all agree that it could have been better written, and we want more freedoms? Yes, but is this the best of what we had to work with for the time that we have now? Yes, I think so. I think that we took a huge step forward yesterday, and I think that this will, in time, prove it. Let's talk about old Jeffrey there.
Hang on.
I'm just dying to get to that one.
Couple more. I know.
Chop at the bit.
All right. So a couple more things that you need to know about the medical marijuana or the recreational marijuana law. We passed it. All right, citizens passed it, so it's the same thing that happened with medical marijuana back in 2008, being that this is a constitutional change, if you will.
Right, a voter referendum, yes.
We have voted in. So the legislature can amend this law, but it would take a 3/4 majority vote to do so.
Yep.
So that's a good thing, because that means the legislature just can't get in there and start chopping it up, because they're already talking about tweaking the section that allows for people to grow up to 12 plants in their home. And a few other things as well. So once again, our legislature seems to think that they can do a better job than the populace when they couldn't do their job at all.
Right.
So at any rate, we do have some protections with this, mean that it needs a 3/4 majority to change. Another part of the detail here is that communities have the ability to opt in If they don't opt in, then they're considered automatically opt out.
Right.
So it's just some language there.
And that's only on the commercial end of the business retail market of the RMLA.
It can't stop you as an individual from consuming and possessing cannabis or growing those plants at your own home.
Yes, and all the provisional individual rights that you're afforded under the RMLA cannot be restricted by your local municipality in any community. So whatever rights that this grants you as an individual, you have, and they can't erode or take it away. Yeah. Same as the Michigan medical marijuana law, and that would be citing the Turbeek decision of 2014
and a few others as well.
Yes, yeah. So they're going to automatically cite these laws as saying, look, we can't overreach them. You can use the Turbeek decision to cite with the law of the RMLA because it's the same principle, it's the same law, it's a voter referendum. They can't override it.
Right on. And lastly, the tax. It's 10% excise tax on top of the 6% sales tax. That's basically what it is. So you're going to pay 6% sales tax and an additional 10% fee that goes to the state.
Now, I believe you can transfer up to 1 ounce to somebody. I believe you can transfer up to 1 ounce to somebody.
Without monetary compensation.
Yeah, without monetary compensation, yes.
Yeah. So you can trade Pokemon cards.
And this obviously this is obviously.
I got some beef jerky. Is that fair?
Right. Well, yeah. This allows for so that there's no gray area between adults. If you're passing a joint from one adult to the other. That would be like the police could say, well, that was a transfer.
As long as there's not money involved, right, exactly. There's no problems.
Exactly. So there you go.
And last but not least, expungement. Gretchen Whitmer has already said that she would consider pardoning some criminal offenders.
Yep.
She'd favor some sort of expungement for low-level marijuana offenses as well.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of folks out there that have been affected by this over the years.
Yeah.
Still have things on their record, and now you can get that expunged, or you're going to be able to.
Well, and at least they're going to be talking about it. Gretchen Whitmer said that they would be talking about that as early as beginning of next year, or just next year sometime. She mentioned today in an interview.
Okay. But it says here there's also a bill pending in the legislature to require judges to consider expunging records of people convicted of misdemeanor marijuana offenses.
Yes, and you know what? The legislative body could pick this up now and it could run with it, just simply based on the fact that they know now that the voters have already passed legalization. They know that if they move forward to expunge people's records, that it would be what the people want, I believe. I think, and with Gretchen Whitmer being governor, and with Attorney General Dana Nessel being our Attorney General, I think these kind of things are very possible. Very possible. So to everyone out there that didn't want to vote for this, or wasn't too sure about opting into this new law, based on the fact that it didn't have language in there to address expunging people's previous records, just know that you've got a governor proactively willing, you've got an attorney general proactively willing, and you've got a legislative body that just seen a state pass a measure to legalize cannabis. That in turn, all three, should move us forward, at least in the very discussion of it, and hopefully get some change. And so that's a good thing.
And it was interesting watching this election here in Michigan, because the fear mongers, they came back out. They continued to spew their baloney, their propaganda that they have, and some of it was just so redundant, so just flat out wrong. And so it was neat to see them sort of get it shoved down their throat. The healthy and productive approach to marijuana, whatever. Well, you're not so productive, are you?
Right.
Guys like Kevin Sabat that basically work for. Doesn't he work for Soros or somebody like that? I mean, jump off a cliff. You know what I mean? Like you're done.
You're done.
That's just a beautiful thing, and I think that's great. And somebody else who's
to all the officers out there that rose up and tried to poo poo and nay say this law. You know what? Shame on you. Okay. You are an officer of the law, and I expect I expect more out of you as an officer of the law, and I expect you to do your job to uphold the law, not to promote which way the people should decide on a law.
Yeah, that's a good point there, because there was quite a few different Michigan sheriffs, police departments,
Right.
that sort of held their own rallies against Prop 1.
Right.
And that's really unprecedented because our law enforcement is not to be campaigning for anything.
Right.
Other than maybe their own personal reelection, of
Right.
course.
And
but, when it comes to talking about ballot proposals or other candidates out there, that is not law enforcement's job.
Right.
And I think that needs to be addressed by our legislative body or by our governor, someone who's in an authoritative position to say, that's inappropriate.
Right.
Because it is inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. It's absolutely.
It's the same thing as like, we have separation of church and state. And most preachers that I've been around my whole life do a good job of that. They will not tell you who they support, red or blue or whatever. If they can do that, our law enforcement certainly can.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I've seen a lot of the I've seen a lot of law enforcement, put up videos and all this and that and promote all this stuff. But I mean, they're using, our uniforms that we purchased and paid for, with them. They're using their flashy cars that we pay the gas for. They're using other materials, printing, accessories or otherwise, to print this stuff. All this is like taxpayer stuff. Taxpayer dollars that they could have potentially been using. I'm not accusing any particular department of doing that, but I'm sure if you looked across the board, you'd find some foul play somewhere because they used our tax dollars to fund their ability to outreach to you and spread propaganda.
Well, and we really don't
happy
want
about that.
Partisan politics involved in law enforcement.
That's right.
It's the same reason why we don't have our judges label themselves as Republican or Democrat.
That's right.
Because when it comes to the dealing and the administration of the law has already been written.
Right.
There's no more debate on it. What we need to do is simply act on what's been written in the best interest of the people and according to the law itself. So
I've heard so many police officers say, well, I don't write the law, I just enforce it. Okay, fine. If you just enforce it, then that's all I expect you to do. I don't expect you to be out there parading around trying to influence people one way or another, preaching that, like you think it's a good or bad thing, whatever, proposition it is.
Right, that's not enforcing, that's proselytizing. So.
Right, exactly.
All right, we did have some big announcements. We were talking about people quitting.
A lot of people resigning these days from office, public office.
Yeah,
I've even had one in my town. I've even had one in my Attorney General of the United States of America, Jeff Sessions, resigned today about an hour ago, as an NBC report stated, at the will of President Trump.
He's a guy that looks like the Brain, from Pinky and the Brain. That's him.
Yeah.
He's gone.
He's gone.
For those of you who don't remember, he's definitely, at least he was paraded around as being, and I think it to his own credit, definitely anti-marijuana.
Oh, definitely.
The guy was, spewing rhetoric from, like Henry Anselinger's personal diary, and good riddance.
Yeah.
All right, the guy, get out of here.
Yeah.
And not that that's going to, all of a sudden make the rainbow appear and everything's going to be okay on the federal level.
Because the next guy could be a jerk too.
Yeah, very well could.
Okay.
Honestly, when we had, I think it was Gilchrist, or I forget the guy's last name, but he was the former chief of police for Seattle, and he was elected or brought on as the head of the DEA. And this was like, I think 5-6 years ago. We talked about this on the podcast. And I had hoped at that point that, man, here we go. We got a guy who's from Seattle, West Coast,
sure,
weed-friendly state, and some of his personal comments were very progressive. And I thought, great, this guy's going to be the head of the DEA, and now we're going to see some real change. And we didn't. You know what I mean? So Jeff Sessions being gone, that's great. At least we know that that one nasty person's out of the picture. But Eric's got a good point. It's no guarantee that it's going to be any better.
Let's just hope that President Trump and the Trump administration picks and chooses, or however that's ever chosen. I'm not sure if it's.
I think they just pick one.
I think it's the Trump. I think it's the Trump administration that just nominates. Yeah. So President Trump nominate a better qualified candidate for Attorney General. Okay. And may I just add that a shining example would be Dana Nessel. Okay. Something like this.
One that doesn't look like the Brain.
Right. Something like Dana Nessel would be just fine. Take it from Michigan here. Take some points.
So we need to press things still at the federal level. Michigan is now the 10th state to pass recreational cannabis. We've now got, I believe the total now is over 30 states have medical marijuana, because I think we were at 28. Some
medical,
form
you're
of,
saying like medical.
yes, medical, not
only.
recreational, just some form of legalized cannabis use, either for medicinal, recreational, or even a decrim level. I believe there's 30 states now in the union that have done something about this. So we're well past the majority here in the country. Certainly, if you look at the population layout, we're well past the majority as well, as far as being in favor of cannabis, for at least for medicinal purposes. So yes, we're edging closer, and maybe with the exit of Mr. Sessions, we can get even a little bit more closer to having some resolution. And it was interesting, I dropped off my taxes this morning at the federal IRS building, and just so you know, federal property, you still can't have any weed on it, okay? Just, they'll send you back to your car. But at any rate, when I walked in there, they were saying, "Oh, you must be happy." You know what I mean? Like, this is good. And I said, "Absolutely, yes, I am happy. It's a good thing." But one of the things that they commented, they said, "So you should be able to start banking now, right?" No, even those people are still clueless. It's not how it works.
No,
your banks are still federally insured. That's the FDIC, and so no, it does not open up banking options for us. We're still bound by the federal laws. There's still no interstate transfer allowed or anything like that. Obviously, states to the south of us don't have recreational marijuana. Michigan is the only state in the Midwest now that has recreational cannabis. You have to go out to the East Coast or the West Coast to get that. So we're gaining momentum. We still have a lot of work to do, and no, not all of the doors have been opened up yet. We still have some stuff left to deal with. So
for sure,
yeah, it's moving in the right direction. I think, again, like you pointed out, it may not be the perfect law by any means. It definitely is still a concern that we're going to have this sort of corporate oligarchy going on here in Michigan. We need to be concerned about that and continue being vigilant in protecting everybody's rights and equal opportunity for everyone, so on and so forth.
Totally agree.
But none of that would even be considered or be possible if we had said no yesterday.
Right.
55.8% got it right yesterday. Good job.
Yep.
Let's be vigilant and hold our state to the fire, and making sure that this new administration listens to its constituents and not just its corporate interest.
Right. And you know what? You don't have to necessarily drive to Lansing to reach out to your elected officials. Approach your local elected officials at the city council and township council meetings at the level of your local municipality. This is the place where your voices can be heard. This is the place where you, as a resident of that community and a taxpayer of that community, and a voter of that community, for those 5 to 7 individuals on a board, given any city or township. And you have the ability to address them on matters of these things and influence them in your community on how you'd want this to be regulated in your community. So I encourage you all to go out there and engage your local elected officials.
Absolutely. Okay, guys, that's about it for what we have on the podcast this week. I want to remind everybody about the Glass Blowing Show and the Soup Kitchen coming up here soon. Please check our Facebook page, Genesee County Compassion Club, for updates and for information on our events. Thank you, Mr. Eric Gunnels, for being back in the studio.
Always a pleasure, Jeremy.
Definitely appreciate it. John, thanks for being here with us at allpointstv.com. Please check out their other podcasts. As John mentioned earlier, he's starting to be available at all the the Swartz Creek,
and that's also too. If you guys, if there's somebody out there who goes to these city council meetings in other areas, and you want to be kind of a contributor, I can see if we could work to get you a camera so you can actually show you how to record them, because I can only make so many a day myself.
Absolutely.
And so if you want to do that, that'd be kind of cool, and we could actually have more of a coverage, more of a transparency situation going on. So I'd like to see that happen, down the road.
Right on.
Well, you guys got the number on the screen there. If you want to contact the studio about that, please feel free to do so. As John said, we're trying to bring transparency here to you, to the viewers, and it's a hard thing to get nowadays. So, and like Eric said, the local level is incredibly important, and you don't get the coverage about what's happening at these local levels on the news. It's just it's incredibly difficult. Just finding election results was tough.
Sure.
So knowing what's going on in your community is difficult, and it's important. So they do a great job of that here at All Points TV. All right. Thanks for joining us this week. We definitely appreciate it. Make sure you stay bundled and warm. Get ready for Thanksgiving, all that good stuff. I want to say thanks again for everybody that showed up at our trunk or treat at the club. It's the first time we did that. It was a great turnout. Nice positive impact in the community. You guys did a great job. Thank you very much, everybody who came out, bought candy, and gave it out to the kids, decorated your trunks. You did a great job. Bob Ross was epic, and so were quite a few of the other trunks there as well.
Nice.
So, you guys, kicking it at the club. I love you guys. Have a great day. Catch you here next week on the Genesee County Compassion Club Show.